Mr. 𝗏𝗏𝗽𝗏, welcome. It's a pleasure having you. Can you hear me? Everything fine?
I can hear you.
Excellent, excellent.
Very welcome to everybody, and hope you're having a good afternoon and beautiful weather like here in Amsterdam.
The same here in Bucharest. I don't know how it's all around the world, people who are watching us. Mr. 𝗏𝗏𝗽𝗏, a few words about you. You have an impressive career path. You start actually working as in retail, and it is maybe your first love. Retail, it's a great job. You start working in large companies like Metro and IKEA for more than 11 years in CEO position, and 6-7 years ago you start working on learning and development, first as Director of Learning for Metro Cash and Carry, covering all the businesses of Metro, including hypermarket and cash and carry and so on. And maybe it was the first step, because after you join Carlsberg Group as VP of Learning and Capability Development, it was somehow natural for you to join and develop Leadership Academy Amsterdam, where you are now Dean. So you have a very interesting background of both practitioner and teacher and learning developer, and now I'm all ears and interested about your presentation about leadership in time of change. Welcome.
Thank you very much, and thank you for offering this space. Yes, indeed, currently since I think 4 years, I'm working as Dean of the Leadership Academy Amsterdam. And we are a very small consultancy company specialized in leadership. And basically, you could say what we do is we do consultancy and we implement leadership development programs. And on average, we do that for larger companies in Europe. And yeah, when I got this title, because it was very nice that I received the title, or I could choose the title to speak from, and that was in this case leadership in time of change, which of course is a very actual theme to talk about. And I don't want to make it too complicated, and I'm very happy that I have seen Diana talking about it, because that really helps me. I can easily connect to that and what I'm gonna present to you now. So basically, there are only 3 things I want you to remember at the end of the day. And I have these 3 pictures, and basically, if you remember these 3 pictures, you're basically ready to be a leader in time of change. So it's I can make it very complicated, and that is not where we are known from, but I also can make it very simple, because it's in our opinion, it's about 3 things. First, it's about the bird's eye, and have a look from a more holistic point of view, and quite soon you will see an example. Then secondly, it's about the valley of tears. It is about, because when we talk about times of change, we try to avoid pain. We try to avoid tears. But unavoidable in times of change, there is pain, and you have to let go of things, and that hurts. And I think that a lot of leaders, they try to avoid this, and they don't. They personally have pain for a change, but when they start implementing it to the people who report to them, then suddenly they say to these people, don't complain, don't cry, hurry up, we're going to change. And I think it's very good as a leader that we realize that there is the valley of tears, as we call it. And last but not least, it's about what we call hybrid leadership. And that basically you see 2 phases, and during the times of change for a leader, there are also two categories of leadership qualities to show. So if you in the end remember this picture, when you go into a change, I think you're very well equipped. So bird's eye, valley of tears, And last but not least, hybrid expression, hybrid leadership. So I would like to ask the organizer to start a video so we get a little bit more what is bird's eye. We have an example here of what a bird sees. So if you could start the video, great. Okay, so what we just saw was what a bird's eye is. And a bird's eye is looking from a real holistic perspective. Basically, what the bird saw was he saw the whole of Dubai, and then in the end went to his right direction. And I maybe in what I'm going to tell you now, keep in mind this bird's eye. And this bird's eye is just like looking from the top of a mountain. So if you look at this mountain here, then you basically see there are three levels I pointed out. There is the valley, there is the base camp, and there is the top. The issue we quite often face with leaders is they are too much in the valley. They are lacking this bird's eye, this view from the top. And what does that mean? If you are looking from the valley, you basically look inside. You see your turnover going down for whatever reason. You see that your profit is going down, and you start complaining to your co-workers. You start saving costs. You start doing all those things in order to keep what you have. And you are complaining. And you know, I'm as bad as everybody else. When we saw the COVID-19 crisis happening, we also lost most of our assignments we had because we had to travel for it. We had to deliver them on the spot. And of course, the first thing you say, it's very bad, and let's save some cost. And yeah, but we didn't have an alternative. We were not, and all of our colleagues around us, all those companies were suffering in the same way. And our company stayed maybe a little bit too long in the valley, complaining, being paralyzed. But when you look from the base camp perspective, you might look around you. You see that others are taking new initiatives, and you are trying to learn from them. If you go to the top perspective, you basically see the whole market, you take the whole world in consideration, and you take from that perspective, you say, there might be a future which by the COVID-19 crisis is appearing for us. There might be a future in virtual delivery. There might be even leadership development projects, leadership development programs, which we're gonna drive virtually. And I remember that I received the first assignment completely virtually. And I really thought to myself, this is difficult, this doesn't work, and how do I do that? And this cost me loads of time. I want to deliver on the spot. But the client said very clearly to us, the assignment is virtually, you're going to do it virtually. But then looking from the top perspective, this was a fantastic learning. We learned how to work with the tools, but we also saw that this was something for the future. And we strongly believe today now that our future will be assignments 50% virtually, combined with 50% being present with our clients. But you have to move up to the top. You have to see the complete perspective of what is happening. in the world. And I think that that's also where we quite often make mistakes. There are all kinds of good examples, good initiatives where you basically could say, yeah, if you would climb a little bit higher, you would have seen that this is a possible failure. So having a bird's perspective is very important. And there is a theory behind that. That's called a systemic approach. And that is, if you read it, it's almost impossible to read, but it basically said, look from a higher perspective, see the whole landscape you are working in. And that goes further than your competitors' clients. This is really looking at the world. And in an environment which, and in this case in COVID-19, the environment forces you to change, then you need to have this bird's eye view, as we call it. Okay, so this was hopefully clear. So bird's eye, have a perspective from the highest possible level, look at the landscape in total. Then I go to something basically what already was shown this morning, the universal model of change, which Diana presented. And I thought it was very nice the way she presented it, because her perspective was you could basically say more systemic than the perspective I presented to you. And I see basically the value of tears comes from the individual perspective, is from that perspective deep down to earth. And we know if we introduce a change, or we are forced to face a change, that the first step is that people say, I can't believe it. This can't be happening. It's not true. You know? And I don't know about you, when you first heard about COVID-19 crisis, with closings, with all kinds of things not happening anymore, you really thought, is this really happening? It will be skipped again next week. No, it's true. So the first thing is denial. And this is a temporary phase in which we basically absorb the news about change before we move to the next stage. Because, yeah, we can maybe not believe it, that something, a crisis or a change will happening, but it is happening. And then you go into the phase of resistance. Why me? It's not fair. I cannot accept it. You maybe all have been part of reorganizations or things like that, but then you say, no, this must be a mistake. They will tomorrow take another decision. So there's resistance, and you say, I don't agree, and we're not going to do it. So, so we realize now that the change is real, and so we're out of the phase of denial, and now it really becomes the angriness. We are angry with the change. It's not fair, it's not the right decision. And I don't know about Romania, but I think I also read it, all the measures which were taken in the beginning concerning COVID-19, there was also resistance. People say, that's over the top, that is not needed. So, resistance. And then you come basically to the valley, and that's the valley of tears. You're very sad. You don't want to accept the change. You know the change will happen, but why bother? You know, why bother? What's the point of trying? And that is basically the point where we have to let go in order to let go. Because change means not only that new things will come, but also means that we have to let go of other things. And the let go of other things, that gives the sadness. A lot of times people, deep in their heart, they fully support the change which is happening, but they're not willing to let go of what they have, of the secure environment they have today, in which they know what is happening and what is working. But after a while, there comes the phase of discovery. People learn how to work with the new situation, and they start feeling more positive. They're even surprised it works. It also works. They have let go of the past and they're looking for the new one. And then you get acceptance and it's going okay. People are involved again. And the people are really in the middle of it. They realize that the whole fighting they did was maybe a little bit over the top, but they accept the change and hopefully you end up on a higher level. And why do I show this? Why do I show the importance of the value of tears? Two reasons. You have a role as leader to help your people through this value. And in a minute I will explain what will you do. But you also should always be aware that you as a leader are probably one step ahead. When you introduce a change, you might be yourself already in the phase of discovery. You already have been to the phase of denial, resistance, and crisis, and then you inform your people about a certain change. And what we quite often see happening is leaders don't understand that their co-workers still have to go to the same phases. You cannot skip any of the phases. You can support people in order to make some phases as short as possible, but you cannot skip it. You go to it yourself, and you should allow your people also to go to all the phases. And basically what we say, when you introduce a change and people go into denial, it's all about clear communication. Inform the people clearly. And if they are in resistance, your empathy should come out. You have to lead them through this situation despite the discomfort that people feel. And with your empathy, you will support them. And when we go to discovery, you go out of the crisis, we have to provide them with a clear vision towards the future. And in acceptance, we involve them again. But you cannot skip any phases. If you try that, it will not work. So that's why the value of tears is so important. It is a process in which every step should happen. Okay, then, so this was the second one. We had the bird's eye view, the value of tears, and now we go to the last one, and that is the hybrid leadership. This is what we normally see how a transformation path works. What you, for example, see in retail, that in retail the COVID crisis has hit it very hard. In the beginning, basically, it was from turnover to nothing. And it was unclear, cost was still going on, some subsidies from government, etc. So you basically, for the stakeholders return, it went very bad. A lot of companies reacted very well and they economized. And that is what we call phase one of the transformation part. They economized. They stopped their costs, they maybe let go of some co-workers who had temporary contracts, etc., etc. It's a normal reaction to a crisis. But then you get a kind of overlap between two phases. Because in the blue part of the graph here, where you see this 1 and 2, you basically work on a new strategy, on a new direction. And that is what, for example, in the Netherlands, a lot of companies jumped in on the opportunity to sell over internet. And basically they developed a new strategic approach, which was much more and having retail and having internet sales. But because of the closure of the non-food stores, they of course depended very much on the internet sales. And a lot of companies, they are very successful. They learned a lot from it. So basically there were two. In the dark gray in the middle, there was basically an overlap of still a phase where you were saving cost and it was very strict, and you want to a phase of creativity where you try to develop a new strategy and hopefully at something like the line called number 2. So basically what I'm trying to say is that in the beginning, it's a completely different style of leadership. than it is in the second phase when you explore new things. And the challenge is in the middle, because there you have to be very strict, you have to be very maybe hierarchical, giving instructions to people. And on the other hand, you need to unleash the creativity in order to develop a new strategy. And for retail, that was, of course, the strategy of selling over internet. And this is what then we call hybrid leadership. And let me go a little bit deeper in that. So in phase number one, you economize. It's about short-term survival. And I can really tell you, I think in a lot of countries, you will lose retailers because it was survival. It was just survival, and all your reserves were needed in order to survive in this period where the non-food companies were closed. So there was in the company, there was a short-term survival orientation. It was about efficiency, it was about discipline, and it was about clarity of direction, how to economize. So you could imagine that that has a completely different leadership style than when you're working on a new strategy. There you have a long-term orientation. We think that a big part of our sales will come from internet. It's about innovating, so stimulating people to open their minds, to brainstorm, to think broad and widely. It's about flexible adaptation, and in order to unleash all that potential, we empowered people a lot. And that is basically a contradiction to face what we have in phase number one. And what we basically see in a lot of cases is that leaders are not aware that there are two types of leadership needed for each phase. And some leaders are not able to be as well this leader economizing and being this leader implementing and developing a new strategy. And that is basically where this is top leadership if you can manage that in the best possible way. One side economizing, and then on a certain moment moving to, you basically say, the mentality of a new startup. So let me go back to the first slide. The three key topics are having a bird's eye, being aware and having respect for the valley of tears, and the third, a very difficult one, be able to see that different leadership is needed in every phase. And this is basically what the message I want to transfer to you. And yeah, please feel free to ask questions.